On the mic with us today is lawyer Sylvie Rodrigue. Sylvie's impact goes far beyond courtrooms. In 2021, she represented Canadian Olympian Mandy Bujold in the landmark case that took on discrimination against pregnant athletes and won. That case didn't just make headlines, it helped shift the conversations around women's rights in international sports.
When her story came out, she was on the first page of the New York Times on Mother's Day, May 2021. And we started receiving calls from women all over the world in different sports saying, I had to go back in training after my C-section, or there's no accommodation. Many sports federations did not have a maternity policy, and the impact on your rankings, for example. Serena Williams had managed to change that in the World Tennis Association so that her pre-pregnancy ranking were recognized. So it was completely outside the comfort zone of me and my team, because the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland is not a tribunal I had been before. The law was completely unknown to us. But we were completely driven by doing what's right for Mandy, and we ignored the white noise, kept our eyes on the ball. There was no stone left unturned by the time we appeared before the tribunal. So we were thrilled with the result that she was not only she was able to go to Tokyo, and this was going to be her last Olympic, but that it was recognized that the retroactive rule that was adopted by the IOC for the qualification of the female boxers in the Americas, the rule itself was not discriminatory, but it has a discriminatory effect, and they had to accommodate. It was a fantastic result, but it was also...
Today, we're diving into her book, Own It, which is a rally cry for anyone ready to stop playing small. It's part legal insight, part life advice, and completely packed with heart and truth. Keep listening to learn more. This is Rise and Thrive with Ms. Monday. I'm your host, a photographer, filmmaker, and artist devoted to telling stories of brave souls who are standing up, speaking truth, and building something better. My podcast is independently created and powered by passion, just my soul connecting with your soul. If something here moves you on the show, I'd be honored if you'd like, subscribe, and share it. Your support fuels this movement, and it means more than you know, so thank you. Thank you for listening. Hi, Sylvie. Thank you so much for being here today. It's awesome to chat with you. You represented the Canadian Mandy Bujold in the groundbreaking case against discrimination for pregnant athletes, and you totally crushed it. You won. You're one of Canada's top lawyers. It's a complete honor to have you here. But today, I'm super excited to talk to you about your book. It just came out, this wonderful book, Own It. I absolutely loved it, found it super relatable, packed with a ton of insights, and a must read for anyone looking to shake things up in their life. But what I particularly liked about the book was your opening chapter. The opening chapter was Conquer the Imposter Syndrome. And you say, no one will take control of your life and destiny better than you. And actually, I just read on Forbes that there was a recent article that came out that said that 75% of female executives, entrepreneurs, experience imposter syndrome. So even the most successful women feel this, and I know you did too. So I thought this would be an important topic to start the podcast on. And so women in a leadership role, mothers, lawyers, anyone dealing with that imposter syndrome and that feeling of inadequacy. How did you turn that inadequacy into motivation? And can you share some practices or mindsets that helped you tackle the imposter syndrome, Sylvie? Because I know your journey is very unique, and I'm sure everyone would love to hear that coming from someone like you.
Well, thank you, Ingrid. And first of all, good afternoon, and I'm thrilled to be joining you. Today, I was so honored to be invited on your podcast.
Aw.
And I'm delighted to share some bits and pieces of the book. I'm very excited about the release of the book. It's also a first for me. I should say, talk about imposter syndrome. Just writing that book created a lot of imposter syndrome. So you're absolutely right. I'm surprised at all by the Forbes article.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, I talk about how I do not know any successful women, no matter what, in what profession, that have not at one time or another experienced the imposter syndrome. And it's interesting that you used that I did past time experienced it, because I don't think this is something that ever goes away. Okay. And it has not gone away. It's something that you can learn to live with, that you can temper, but it doesn't go away. Whether I'll talk about my experience in a minute, but I think that many women, it's just in our DNA. We have a difficult time embracing success and feeling deserving of the success, something that men struggle a little less with. In my case, and I also think that's the case for many women, it was very much ingrained in my past and where I came from. And for the longest time, that dictated when the imposter syndrome would surge in my life, whether in my personal life or my professional life. And I have a saying that I repeat in the book, that the little devil voice would always be, I shouldn't be here. This is just the little girl from Belleuil, because I come from a small town in Quebec called Belleuil. And every time I would achieve success or be in a situation that I felt I was undeserving of, that little voice would come in and say, you're just a little girl from Belleuil. What are you doing here? So the first thing that I would say is to really, first of all, realizing what's happening. You need to be able to identify that what you're feeling is the imposter syndrome, and not let where you come from or your background define where you're going and who you are. You have to convince yourself first. And that is the hardest part. I think once you've learned to recognize that it's not insecurities, that it's not that you're not confident, that is normal, depending on your path, to have some imposter syndrome at any stage of your career. I'm going to give a few examples that were earlier in my career and a few examples that are later in my career, but that's why I said it never truly disappears. It's the question of really recognizing it, managing it, and not letting it paralyze you. Because I always say that if I would have let the imposter syndrome dictate where I was going, I would probably still be in Belleuil doing something completely different when my dream was to become a lawyer. Because being among your peers that are of the same fabrics is very comfortable. It's very uncomfortable. We're going to talk about the comfort zone in a minute, but the chapter of the books are all intertwined. One lesson goes to the other one. And so there will be a little bit of overlap in what I'm talking about. So let me give you an example in my personal life. Because I'm adopted, I do not have any biological roots. There's a theory that maybe I was born in Ireland, and something I discovered only when I was 27. And I grew up in a small town, French Canadian family, blue collar, many moments of poverty where families had to bring food, used clothes from the church or charities. And I was sort of the underdog even at school. And my way of conquering that I always felt that I didn't fit in, and starting in high school, was to work harder and to want to prove to myself first that I belong. So resilience, work ethic, discipline, and with each success, I was convincing myself that I belong. An example I talk about in the book, it relates to my figure skating career when I was a child, really, because figure skating it seems a little bit contradictory because it's a sport where people are usually well off. So I clearly had other parents helping my parents. And for the longest time, all I had for Christmas or my birthday would be my skate. It was the one time a year gift. And I recall vividly the first time I felt the imposter syndrome, and it was at my first Quebec games, because the girls around me had a lot of fancy dresses. They had private lessons. They had perfect makeup. I was 13 years old. And it hit me that I didn't belong there. And I was very afraid that I was going to embarrass myself, be completely humiliated, and almost prevented me from going on the ice. And I did. And even though my program was much simpler than the others and I was much plainer because there was no sparkle on my dress, I did a perfect program, a simple one. And I ended up with the silver medal. And this is the first time that I realized when I was on the podium, even as a 13-year-old, that if you push through it, if you don't let it paralyze yourself and you earn your successes, it will temper down the imposter syndrome. At work, that imposter syndrome continued when I started law school. I didn't think I was going to fit in. It kicked in again at my first interview with a law firm because the little voice was there. I don't belong here. I don't know what lawyers are supposed to wear. I'm gonna make a fool of myself. So, but every time I had that little voice that said, no, I've earned this. I've earned the grades. I got accepted to law school. They invited me. They sent me an invite to come to this interview. So it's worthy of me to be here. And I said earlier that it doesn't go away because I had the same feeling a few years ago, the first time I went to the Supreme Court of Canada. And what am I doing in this room? I'm just the little girl from Bel-Air. It's still happening. But the advice to sum up is to recognize it and to use your successes to convince yourself first that you are deserving of this success.
Mm-hmm. Yes, to remember, those little wins, right? So you've led complex class action cases. You've broken ground in litigation. You are an amazing, amazing lawyer, Sylvie. So you are definitely not an imposter at all. But with the Mandy Bujold case, which is a landmark case for Canadian and for Canada and for women's empowerment, it's a defining case. Mandy's courage and discrimination was truly inspiring to us all. And I don't know if you know this, but my brother also is an Olympian. He's represented Canada twice for sailing, which was incredible. He actually came fourth in Beijing, and the whole family was like, no, not fourth. Like, you're just so close to the podium. But it's okay. We might have jinxed him, but it's all good. He did really well. I understand the sheer determination and dedication it takes for any athlete to go to that level. And so for Mandy's case, also being a woman and then being discriminated against because of her maternity leave and because of her pregnancy, and something as natural as being pregnant must have felt incredibly disheartening for both her and you. And when Mandy, she's the Canadian Olympic boxer, was initially denied her spot because of maternity leave, you stepped up and helped her win that case, and also helped women view pregnant women and how their rights are when it comes to sports, right? So now I have a question for you, because obviously this is a very touchy subject. So what did that experience teach you for standing up for women's rights? And even when it comes to something as risky and also creates potential resistance from some, like it's one of those topics it's that fine middle ground, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the resilience it took from Mandy and for us, the team of lawyers, and the inner strength and courage to bring this case forward was, for me, an important lesson. Mandy has been a role model, really, to us all throughout this case, because I represent corporate clients. So, and by design, because I'm a very emotional person in my personal life. And I had chosen very early on in my career that I could not do family law or criminal law. I have a lot of respect for my colleagues practicing in these fields because I take on really the case on my shoulder. So the Mandy's was a pro bono case. So it's a case that the firm, because women's right was at the core of it, it's a case that the firm supported that we were going to do without charging our fees. And a lot of people try to discourage us. So there's a chapter in the book that talks about ignoring the white noise. There was a lot of white noise around taking this case because the International Olympic Committee is quite powerful. Not many athletes are successful to take them on. We try to convince them before going into litigation, naively thinking that this could be resolved out of court and that an accommodation could be provided to Mandy. And they didn't want to, so we had to file the appeal. And it really took a lot out of Mandy because it was very intense. The case started in April and Tokyo 2021 was starting in July. And she didn't give up. We didn't give up. She did not give up. We did not give up. There were times where she wanted to give up, where the team of lawyers working with her told her that now she had not just her fight, but the fight of many women at play, because we received a lot of phone calls, and it became almost like a little bit like a Me Too movement. When her story came out, she was on the first page of the New York Times on Mother's Day, May 2021. And we started receiving calls from women all over the world in different sports, saying, I had to go back in training after my C-section, or there's no accommodation. And many sports federations did not have a maternity policy, and the impact on your rankings, for example. Serena Williams had managed to change that in the World Tennis Association so that her pre-pregnancy ranking were recognized. So it was completely outside the comfort zone of me and my team, because the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland is not a tribunal I had been before. The law was completely unknown to us, but we were completely driven by doing what's right for Mandy. And we completely ignored the white noise, kept our eyes on the ball. And again, work ethic, discipline, and really searching the law. There was no stone left unturned by the time we appeared before the tribunals. Thrilled with the result that she was not only she was able to go to Tokyo, and this was going to be her last Olympic, but that it was recognized that the retroactive rule that was adopted by the IOC for the qualification of the female boxers in the Americas, the rule itself was not discriminatory, but it has a discriminatory effect, and they had to accommodate. It was a fantastic result, but it was also, and I'll end with this because there's a chapter in the book at the end that is about gratitude and paying it forward. And it's in that context that I talk about the Mandy's case. To me, I have 32 years of practice. This was without a doubt the most demanding case emotionally, but the most rewarding. Very good for the soul to accomplish something that is not just about money. And not that there's nothing wrong with this. And I defend, with the same intensity my corporate clients, but this was very meaningful at another level. And it's important because these cases are, after all, why many people became lawyers. And it's a way to pay it forward and give back.
Yes. Yes. And thank you for doing that. The rules in sports. And I think it's incredible that you were able to do that in your team. So thank you, Sylvie. Now, you also write in your book about becoming the master of your own destiny. That requires grit and resistance. How can you stay in control of your destiny when life throws you curveballs and wants to take you in a different direction? I'd love to hear your thought on that.
Thank you. I keep repeating these three little words: plan, plan, and plan.
Okay.
It sounds cliche, but taking control of your life and your destiny requires deliberate choices. And there's at various places in the book, there's a list of tips, little exercise, practical takeaways. And for this one, the only way you can accomplish this is really early on, no matter how old you are and whatever stage of your personal life you are at or in your professional life. It's really helpful to have a list of your short-term goals, your medium-term goals, and your long-term goals, and how you plan to achieve them. It's not a secret sauce that you cannot, you will deviate. But what's important is that your overall objective, you know what it is, and you have a plan to get there, and you're going to ignore the distraction to, again, keep your eyes on the ball. And that requires very often making very difficult decisions. And people are afraid to make difficult decisions, whether in your personal life or your professional life. And people are afraid because it leads to the other topic because it's uncomfortable to make decisions that are difficult. So I'm going to use an example to illustrate how having my eyes on the ball and making deliberate choices helped me. In my personal life, I cover in the book that I've had to leave 3 important relationships without any trouble. No fighting, no disagreement. Love is there, not really the issue, but sort of growing in different directions. And the first one, I was younger, a little easier. The second one, very difficult because we were getting along, but I wanted to have children and he didn't want to have children. I could have stayed with him because there was nothing wrong with the relationship. He wanted to have an international career. Because of my adoption, it was very important for me to have a blood related connection.
Yeah.
And I had to call it quit. And it was heartbreaking, but my eyes were on the ball of, I want a family. It's important for me to have a family. You don't want to have children. There is no point. I was pushing 31. So it was, it's like, I need to make the decision now. And a lot of people will just sit on it and say, well, there's no problem. I'm going to wait. And then you wake up and you're 45 and you didn't achieve your dream. But I was very specific about what I wanted to achieve. And it was the same thing when I decided to be with Paul, my husband right now. It was a difficult decision not to be with Paul, but to change city. And I know we're going to cover this in the context of another life lesson, but it was a deliberate, I want a family. I wanted siblings for my daughter. Tough decision to abandon Quebec, Montreal, completely rebuild my career, my network. But my personal objective was, this is what I want in my personal life, and this is what I need to do to achieve it. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happens, and it could happen in any profession again, in terms of how I was going to move my career forward. And I put this in place very early on, even when I was just 23, and I'm 55 now. I was grabbing opportunities. If I knew that a wave of new litigation would come, I would go and see the person in charge, not impose an idea and not being cocky and say, this is my idea and we must do this, but rather, I have an idea. And what do you think of the idea? And I'm volunteering to lead the ideas. And I knew with some of these examples, for example, creating the class action practice group at my firm, then that it would help go where I wanted to go with my career. And the same thing where if I felt, and a lot of young professionals ask me this question, like, how do I build my profile? I'm just arriving. I'm 24 or 25. I don't know anybody. You have to make a plan and you have to take control of it, because yes, you can have mentors and champions, and we're going to talk about this. But at the end of the day, you have to draw the roadmap. How am I going to get there? You'll get advice, but your own objective are your own. And that's how you take control of your destiny, really, by taking control, having a plan.
Yeah. Well, in your book, you talk about how you left home when you were, I think, 16 years old.
Yes.
And then you worked at a reputable firm. And you had to face that major decision, which was to potentially change careers and move, right? And so you said, quote, in an instant, I saw what the next 20 years of my career might look like if I'd stayed. And I said to myself, that's it, I'm done. Can you share that moment?
Yes.
Because obviously that must have been a very difficult decision. And what was it that exactly made you move or make that decision?
So it is a good example in the book on that, and that has ramifications on multiple other lessons that we discuss in the book. But so my first firm in Montreal, I had started there when I was 19 years old as a student, very early. Back then, there was no rules around when you could start as a student. So when my current firm, Torys, approached me, I had already been at my firm for 21 years. It was the longest relationship of my life. I had left home at 16. And at that point, now I just celebrated my 20-year anniversary with Paul. So I'm getting close to that 21 years. But at the time, it was literally the longest relationship of my life. So very comfortable. And I always thought I was always going to stay there. And Torys approached me and I was very close. When I met with them, my arms were crossed and my body language was completely close to the idea. But at the same time, the culture that was presented to me from the firm was very appealing, but I didn't believe it. It sounded too good to be true. I even told the managing partner that he was like a first date and had no credibility because he was just telling me what I wanted to hear. So I sort of put it aside, but was doing slow due diligence. And a lot of people were confirming to me that this was true, that this is truly the culture at Torys. So while this was growing, I was afraid to leave that comfort home family that I've had for 21 years. And maybe I had a guardian angel, or maybe I was more open to see what was not in line with my own values at the time. But so there were some cultural incident that led me to believe, and I'm still a practicing lawyer, so I need to be discreet about what it is, because I have a lot of respect for that, for my firm, with a lot of great colleagues, and it's a great firm. So I don't want to get too much into the details of what happened. But the moment that you asked me to identify it is when I realized that the firm was going in a direction that was not in line with my values. And I had to make a snap decision when I realized that, and really quickly turned around and picked up the phone and called the managing partner at Torys and say, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm coming. But it was that, it really depends. If I'm wrapping this into an advice, it would depend on the situation. Could be a relationship. Could be something, you know you should be leaving, that this place is holding you down, or you should be leaving your spouse or your partner because it's holding you down, and you're waiting for that, and you have this moment and you say, okay, I gotta go. But you gotta be in tune with these moments. And I think that before Torys opened my eyes, that the culture I was looking for still existed on Bay Street. There were probably many moments like this, but I was not seeing them. I was not seeing them because it was too comfortable to just continue with blinds. And this is where I was born as a professional, and this is where I'm going to retire. And I was not really opening my eyes. So it requires to really be alive to what is important to you, both in your personal life and your professional life.
Follow that voice, that inner guidance.
Voice.
Yeah, that inner guidance. Now, earlier on this conversation, and also in your book, you talk about something called white noise. And I immediately think of peer pressure, maybe jealousy. I know you talk about that a bit in your book too. And then now the pressures of like social media and other distractions and other things that are weighing on us. These distractions are loud, opinionated, and often deeply critical, and can be very hard on us, especially women and younger women. Now, in your book, you said something, you quoted David Bowie, and it was, criticism is a part of creativity. I love that. So how do you distinguish between constructive criticism, your own criticism, positive feedback versus harmful, and the white noise? Because there's a few different ideas here that are all very similar.
The strongest white noise was before I joined Torys. It was when I had to leave Quebec to go to Toronto to join Paul. And there was that white noise, and then there was other white noise in my personal life with the miscarriages. So I'll use these two examples, because you're absolutely right. It's very loud, and you need to have your own inner voice louder. And it's fine, and I say this to my daughter all the time, that our first instincts, that inner voice, is highly unutilized. We especially women, we overanalyze everything. And the first instinct, the first inner voice is often put at the end of the list of what we want to do. I explain in the book that there's three types of noises. Three types of people from whom you're going to hear noises. Those who truly believe in you. So these are obviously good noise, good voices. Those who don't want to hurt you, are not jealous or anything, but they're just pessimist people. They're just going to say, too difficult. Why are you doing this, etc. And then there are those who are jealous and really want you to fail. And you have to learn to distinguish these voices, because those who believe in you sometimes will be right, and they're trying to save you from yourself. So your inner voice is not always right, and you have to bounce it with people that you trust, because it's possible that you're going to change your mind. But these people that you can trust, you need to identify them. And actually, I say in the book, you should write them down. It sounds silly. It's like, well, I know I trust my sister. Well, do the exercise of making a list of people that those people are the one you're going to go bounce what you want to do with. And make a list of the pessimist people, and you can love them to death, and they can be pessimists. You just need to recognize what their weakness is, and make a list of the people you have to watch for. So with my departure, I was still with my first firm. Paul and I had a relationship between Quebec and Toronto for over a year. He had 3 young boys. I had my toddler. This was not sustainable. Again, my master of my own destiny. I wanted a family together. I didn't want to do this anymore. And many, many people said that I was committing a career suicide for love. Many. What are you doing? At the time, I had 13 years of practice. You're well established here. Bay Street is a completely different world, old boys club. You're never going to make it. You're too colorful. You're too French Canadian. You're too loud. A lot of that.
Wow.
But I knew that I could do it. But at that point, I had some champions. So I had identified those who believe in me and said, we're going to support you. We're going to help you. I'm thinking of a name, John Coleman, who was the managing partner of my firm at the time, completely supportive. What do you need? I needed to requalified at the bar while having a new reconstituted family with 4 children under the age of 9. I still needed to practice in Montreal. So I had support and I had people who believed in me. I had those, as I said, who were the pessimistic, you're not going to make it. And I had those who just did not want me to succeed. And I knew exactly who they were. So that's how I was able to parse them. Because I already knew before this decision, before this moment, who I could trust and who I could bounce ideas with. And sometimes it's not bad intentions because I lost 3 babies before Florence, late in pregnancies, and it was very difficult. And people, my family, wanted me to quit trying. Obviously, people who love me.
Yeah.
There was a very fine line between people trying to save me from myself and the pessimistic. This was a very blurry line. But again, I had to trust that it was going to work. And what tipped the scale is the one person that convinced me that with her help, I was going to be able to have my biological child. And that was Dr. Benjamin from the Royal Victoria Hospital, as it then was in Montreal, who says, no, she's specialized in difficult pregnancy. And she says, we're going to do this. You're going to do this. You need a plan. I needed to see her every 2 weeks. I needed to take naps. I ordered a couch to put in my office. I gained 60 pounds because I insisted to drink the 5 glasses of milk a day. I did everything by the book with her help. She identified with the autopsy of the prior lost baby that I was at a risk of stroke. She put me on baby aspirin. So we developed this plan. And that particular white noise was very, very loud. And if I had not found that one person that was going to hold me and tell me we're going to do this together, I would have probably listened to the white noise because it was coming from people who love me. So the counterbalance to the white noise is important because if you do not find any counterbalance to your white noise, then maybe there's a problem with what you're about to do. Because usually when it's a good idea, you'll find someone that's going to counterbalance the white noise.
Yes, that's so true. You'll find that guide or that positive feedback if it's meant to be.
Exactly.
Now, you talk a little bit about the term champion and then also mentor.
Yes.
And I've always kind of associated those as one, but I would love to hear your opinion on what is a true champion and what is a mentor.
It's an excellent question the reason I drafted a whole chapter about this is because in my role, I am champions to some lawyers and I'm a mentor to some lawyers. Many people confuse the two. This is quite common. So a mentor could be an official mentor because many organizations have a formal mentorship program, or could be someone that you just choose because you get along with that is going to train you, teach you, take you under their wing from a skills perspective, and sometime on how to handle your colleagues when there's personal incidents. So it's not just about the professional skill sets. And in the legal world, most firms have mentorship programs. There's a lot of mentorship happening. So that is the well-known mentor. The word mentor is quite well-known. A champion is someone that's going to have your back, which is very, very different. And I would not have achieved what I've achieved without champions. I would probably still be a very good lawyer because I had great mentor. But would I have gotten these larger landmark cases? would I have gotten the recognition, the rankings, the awards, the airspace in terms of developing my profile, being on panels in London, in the United States? I didn't just start at 23, 24 and call the organizer of a conference in New York and say, can I please be a speaker? It doesn't work like this. And I give the example in the book of a dear friend of mine, a colleague in Toronto who was at my level and had no profile, no ranking, no recognition. And he could not understand when I arrived in Toronto, like, how do you have all of this, like at 36 years old? And I said, well, it doesn't start at 35. Very early on, at my first year of practice, there was a senior partner that took me under his wings, not from a mentorship point of view, but from a championship point of view. So, for example, he would invite me, oh, you need to come to this cocktail because there's going to be tons of people I can introduce to. He would literally go into a circle and say to the group, because it's difficult as a young professional to pierce that circle in a cocktail, like come in and say something. He would do this for me. Let me introduce you to my new colleague as she was just sworn in. She's going to be great. She's done this. She's done. So he would praise, and then he would introduce me. He would purposely have me co-signed papers. If somebody would ask him to be a speaker in a panel, he would say, actually, my colleague is much better than me. She'll do it. When these, in the legal world, these ranking publication, league tables, we call them, would call, I'm not on these calls. I'm a baby lawyer. He's a partner. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but I know that he would actually say, well, this one is an up and coming. It's a superstar. You should have her in your radar. That type of thing, a champion does that. So it's someone that is really going to promote you and also have your back if other people are trying to hurt you. And again, that exists. You read the book, so you know the book is structured with always example and a professional example, because you need a champion in your personal life even more than a mentor. But I would say you need champions in your personal life and in your professional life. The pregnancy example we just talked about, that was a champion in my personal life. My husband is a champion in my personal life because the last 20 years with navigating the 2 provinces with the young children and everything else, impossible without someone having my back at home. But professionally, you can get lucky like me and somebody is just going to voluntarily be your champion. And I certainly, because the importance of paying it forward, I'm offering myself to be a champion to a lot of young lawyers right now. But you may have to ask. And you need to have the courage to ask and say, identify the person you think can help your career and say, will you be my champion? And if the person doesn't know what that means, which is possible, then you need to explain what it means to that person. But I guarantee you that, and for your audience, that there is not one profession where this cannot be found. But you need to have the courage to ask.
That is such valuable advice. It's so important. Now, Sylvie, you've had such a fascinating life, not just as a lawyer. You're also a mother, like you've openly discussed on this podcast, but you're also a landowner and you live on a farm with lots of animals, which is incredible because I automatically think, I don't think of you like that. So I found that very fascinating and interesting when I was reading your book. But also you talked about how one of your horses was pregnant and that you suddenly had to change roles, taking care of the animals, which I thought made the book very human.
Yes.
Relatable. But on the outside, someone might look at you and say, oh, wow, Sylvie, you've done it all. And you have, to me. I think you have done a lot. You still remind us that in our book that life is not a marathon. It's a race. No. You say life is a marathon.
Not
quote,
a race, yes.
Not a race, yes. So what would you say to someone listening right now who might feel like they're falling behind, right? Or even that you just gave an example of someone saying, hey, looked at your resume and said, hey, at 36, you've done so much. I haven't done anything. You can start, I guess, now, right?
Right.
Or what would you say to someone who, is feeling the pressure of the checklist of success, I guess.
Right. So it's a good question also because it depends. I find that most of the young women who come to me with that pressure that you describe, feel that pressure way before 36. They're 25 and 26 and they already feel like they're falling behind.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but you're right that it can happen a little later, but most of the ones that came to me, it was unjustified because it was so early, and it came. And I'm not going to throw the next generation under the bus. My kids are all in this generation, and there's certainly many exceptions. But because it's a generation that grew in the concept of instantaneity, because of social media, because of technology, because I started practicing, we were still using fax. So I had the benefit of waiting for the fax to arrive. And they're from a skill set, it's, everybody expects to be responded to right away. So that transcribed to me what I've seen the evolution in the last 32 years to even from an accomplishment perspective. Young professional wanting to have everything faster than I think I wanted it. I had an objective. I knew I wanted to be a partner at 30. I knew what I wanted to do, but it was not in my first 2 years of practice. And so the first advice I would give is there's really no magic pace. So there's no such thing as falling behind per se. And there's certainly a remedy for everything. So in your example, if you're 36 and you found, it's like, okay, where do I start? You have to then go back to the beginning of the book with the advice about writing down your objective, because you can start at any time. Usually when people fall behind, it's because they have no plan. They have been floating around, not having a clear direction of what they want. There are many exceptions to this. Life throws curveball. You may have to take care of a sick child or parents or death in the family. So as I said earlier, your plan will deviate, but the big umbrella of your plans don't. And that's why I have a young lawyer at the firm. She's 35. She was just sworn in because she had another career before. She decided to go to law school later on in life. Deep down, she always wanted to be a lawyer. She was just sworn in. And she's not the only example in that position. We've seen people that are doctors who want to become lawyers, that are lawyers who want to become doctors. So to me, there's no finish line to this. And how many stories did we hear of older women, 70, 75, going to go do their first bachelor at university? It's just important to know what your objective and your plans are. And you have to have your checklist sort of and tailor it to you and to what's happening in your life. It connects to these goals that we talked about before. And I find these are overarching theme in the books, but resilience, discipline, patience are a good quality for the life as a marathon, not a race. And it's dangerous to want to go too fast. This is an advice that I give to younger professionals. I've made mistakes. I talk in the book about how, as a woman, when I was 23, I thought that I should immediately do business development like men in their 50s. And I said, well, I come from the first generation where there's more women than men in law school. I am not from the generation where I'm the only woman lawyer. This is an equal profession, so I can do the same thing. And it's a funny anecdote actually in the book where I recount that I saw my male colleagues inviting clients for dinner and clients from out of town. So I'm 23 and there's this client from Texas in his 60s. And I said, oh, would you like to go for dinner? And I went for dinner, but he thought it was a date. So it put me in a very awkward position. He got very antsy and I tried to escape from the bar. He ran after me on the street. I wanted to dance. It was a whole uncomfortable, and it was a client. So it's not like a guy in a bar you can just slap in the face and say, don't touch me. I was very conflicted with, I have professional obligation. How did I put myself in that position? And thankfully, the next morning, the female partner who was in charge of this client, a champion of mine, called the client and gave him a piece of her mind and didn't choose the client over what had happened. But what it taught me was that I was trying to go too fast. I thought I was, and it's not a gender thing. It's just that I learned to do things differently at my level. I learned to, if I don't know the client very well, obviously clients, it's okay. But if it's a client I don't know, I will invite colleagues with me, or I will invite spouses, or I will, but my objective was like, the 50-year-old partner are doing it like this. I'm a smart woman. I can do the same thing. So I was not patient and tailoring what should be done at my level, including an advice I give to the young professionals, again, no matter what the profession is. Invite your peers. Do business development with your equivalent at the client in-house. That person in 20 years will grow with you. That relationship will be cultivated. You can't, at 23, have as a goal, tomorrow morning, I'm inviting the CEO of this big multinational and I'm going to become his friend or her friend. You've got to slow it down. There's nothing wrong with it. God only knows I was ambition. There's nothing wrong with ambition and having an objective. But you need to be conscious that you're not going to be vice president or president tomorrow. And you're not going to be a partner after 2 years of practice. And if you don't make partners after 7, 8, 9 years, it's also not the end of the world, because there's a pace and there's accomplishments that needs to be achieved before you get to the next level. And that's why I talk about earning your dues. You're focused on being successful and being the best that you can be. And to lawyers, I say, like, to me, I'm going back again to the short-term goal, medium goal, and long-term goal. But I knew the short-term goal was to be the best lawyers I could be, develop my skill sets, get as much exposure to become a great litigator. I know that my medium goal was to become a partner. What do I need to do to become a partner? And my long-term goal was to have more complex cases and great clients. But at each step, I sought advice. Do I need to do to get there in the next 4 or 5 years? And I have a lot of people on my team that's been doing this. People who are mid-level associates, we say 5, 6 years out. They want to be a partner in 5 years. They ask me to go for coffee and they say, okay, this is my career goal. I think I should be doing X, Y, Z. What do you think? This is pacing it. They didn't come and say, I should really be a partner. I don't understand why I'm a partner. Help me. That's very different than pacing it and having a plan based on accomplishment.
So I want to bring it back to the title of the book, Own It. And I want to circle back to the beginning of the book, because I was surprised actually to see that you had written that you were at your lowest point when you decided to write this book. But then you titled it Own It. It's such a powerful message. What did that turning point feel like? And how did it motivate you to share your story so openly?
It's indeed an interesting path, because as you can imagine, I'm a very busy woman and I had not planned to write a book. And a lot of people, well, what, you wrote a book, but when? Because really it was not on my radar. It's something I wanted to do when I retired, but it was not on my radar. And kudos to Sanjay Berman, the publisher, who showed some resilience and didn't let go, because I pretty much ignore him when he first approached me, because I was at the lowest point. So I talk about the lowest point in the book in the context of being careful when you take care, when you be the master of your own destiny, that you don't forget yourself. And despite all the advice and knowing what to do and not to do, I let this happen to me by never saying no to anybody. At 55, and many will relate to this, I'm in this sandwich generation where you have the adult children that still need you and you have the elderly parents that still need you, and you're pulled in every direction at the same time, combined with a moment where my career was extremely busy with a lot of big cases. And like most women, I think we can hold it together when everything is going well on the personal front. So while I was already exhausted with no fuel in the tank to manage anything else, I had a falling out with my daughter that I'm very close to. She's 21 now. That brought me down to my knees. And I let it happen to me because I did not set boundaries, and I said yes to everybody, and I forgot myself. It was, my parents need me, I'm going to do everything. Even though I had siblings, I didn't ask for help. It was like, I'll do it. I'll stay. I wanted to control everything. So when I almost quit, I almost resigned. I wanted to give it up. I didn't want to be the rock of anybody anymore. I didn't want to be there I didn't want the team to depend on me. I didn't want my children to depend on me. I didn't want my parents to depend on me. And I wanted to go. And the firm, of course, was very supportive, and we designed a plan for me to catch my breath, which we did. And it's during that period that this idea of the book came in. And I told my husband, this is ridiculous, because who am I going to motivate? I wanted to quit my job. Clearly, I'm not in a position to motivate anybody. But he said to me, I think you should think about it because it's going to be another lesson to tell. So once I got back into my feet, I took 6 weeks off and I set boundaries with everybody, with my team, with my daughter. And by then we had resolved our issues with my siblings, for my parents. It was liberating to write the book. It was almost like a therapy because it allowed me to own, and that's where the title comes from, to take ownership of who I was, the struggles and the decisions and my future. So it was really the ultimate example of taking back the control of my destiny by putting myself first, which is not, most women never put ourselves first. For the longest time, we do, even our elderly parents. So I decided purposely to do this. And that's why the main theme of the book and the choice of the title, Own It, is specifically because I say you have to own it all. Like the only way that you're going to achieve all your dreams, personal and professional, is to take ownership of all of this, who you are, the struggle, your decisions, the future, and truly embrace them. Because I think living in regret is the worst thing that we can do. I should have done this. I should not have done that. Why did I do this? And this constant no, you made the decision. You had reason to make the decision. Own it and move on.
That's so good. Such great advice. So finally, because we have to wrap this up now.
Yes.
For anyone listening who is feeling inspired, I guess, besides picking up a copy of your book, Own It, which I highly recommend, you got to pick it up. Any last words or any advice? Someone who wants to make a change.
You said it earlier, if I'm not mistaken, but for me, the saying you can have it all is really key. And too many women think that if you want to have a great family life, you need to sacrifice a career. And if you want to have a great career, you need to sacrifice your personal life. And I do not believe that. I don't believe that this is true. You said at the beginning, I feel like you had it all. And you referred to my horses. At some point, I had 11 horses, 3 dogs, the 4 young children, my career. The key to all of this was the planning and surrounding myself with the right person, because I say you can have it all, but no one can have it all alone. You need the right people, the right network, and you need to know what you want. And then you can have it all. If I've managed to have all of this and be balanced, and 20 years now with Paul and all the children are above 20, and now I refer to it in the book, I've give my horses to a friend of mine because we have this new great life in Italy on another farm, but this time for olive trees.
Amazing.
And that's a retirement project. It's solely because I feel that you can have it all if you really plan it and have the right people around you.
Oh, I love it. You can have it all. It's amazing. So thank you so much, Sylvie, for joining us today. I hope this conversation to our listeners has sparked something. Whether it's courage to step outside of your comfort zone, simply just a reminder that you're not alone in this journey, and you can own it, girl. You can have it all. You can have it all.
Absolutely. Own it. We should make a song out of it.
Yes, I love it. Own it is a mindset. So if you're listening right now and you're the first in the family to do something, to go to that college, take that job, start a business, go, get your law degree. You know this. Your path is yours. Don't let anything or anyone stop you. Surround yourself with those champions. Get those mentors. And read Sylvie's book. And let her words also remind you that you have the power to shape your story. So as always, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, thank you so much. If you enjoyed our interview today, please share and like it. And if you have a unique story of how you are creatively engaging with our world, I can help you share it in a multitude of different ways. Whether it's through photography, film, or being a guest on my podcast, be sure to reach out. My mission is to make you and your brand stand out. Please visit our website, www.riseupandfixit.com. Now, this is Rise and Thrive with Ms. Monday, brought to you by the Rise Up and Fix It podcast.